Let me share my screen. So my screen is visible to everybody? Is it coming? Okay, yeah, cool. Okay, hello all. Thanks for joining this Selenium classes. So let me give an introduction to myself. So I'm Anil Vijayan. I have overall around 10 years of IT experience. Currently, I work for IBM. And the last IBM in the sense last 8 years I'm working for IBM and overall 10 years of experience, and started my career as a software developer and then switched to test after I joined to IBM, and currently I'm working as a automation lead where I'm leading Selenium is one of the project which I'm leading, and overall Selenium like on and off 2.5 years of experience. And currently that project in our company is being led by Venkat. He is our co-instructor and he will be covering most of the classes, where I will start with the introduction of this Selenium and one of the technique which we use inside the Selenium. So I'll be covering those two sessions. Then so the course is structured in a way like today there will be an introductory class where we will we'll see the basic terms and terminologies inside Selenium, and we'll start with an element location technique, which is one of the fundamental aspects of Selenium automation. So we'll try to start with that one, then we'll continue on the coming sessions and we'll finish it off that element location techniques.
Yeah, okay.
Then we will move back to Java, because Java is the language which we are going to use for programming. So we'll see some of the basic concepts of Java that will be covered by Venkat. Then we will come back to again Selenium automation, and we'll see all the basics and some of the advanced concepts of Selenium. So that's how the course is structured. Okay, let us start. So Selenium. So what is Selenium? So Selenium is basically a UA automation tool. So UA in the sense web application based UA. So web application in the sense any application which you can access through a standard browser, which we can call that as a web application. So those web applications, any interaction, any user interaction which you can perform using a browser, all those interactions can be automated using the Selenium tool. So Selenium having a number of tools, and we will be since we are programmatically going to achieve this task, we will be using Selenium WebDriver. So before jumping on to that Selenium portion, we'll first see what is a web application. Let me zoom in a little more.
Okay.
Okay, so I was mentioning about web application. So what is a web application? So web application is it's basically in a software applications which you can access that application through a browser. So and when you see a browser communication, how a browser communicates to that particular web application, if you see that, that is basically probably you might be aware already. Basically a server to client communication architecture, where the communication protocol is HTTP. So here in our case browser is the client to that server, and the server is nothing but any web server which is hosted somewhere on a remote location. So if you take a standard example of Google, so Google's web servers will be hosted in different data centers across different locations around the world. So, and I think there is some echo. Okay, yeah. So yeah, so that different data centers across the world will be hosting that Google, basically that Google application, and using any standard browser, when you as a user, when you send a request to that Google data center, uh, that web application running on the data center will respond to that request, and that request and response will be happen through a HTTP protocol. And how it really understand that is the, I mean, particular Google's website only we have to interact. So our URL will basically explains that. So URL is nothing but an IP address. So that IP address is basically an address to that remote web server. In our example, Google's website.
It is showing connecting. I don't know what is.
So is that clear?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. So and coming to the web browser. So web browser, if you right click any website, if you open any website in a web browser, let it be any web browser. If you right click, and there is one option called page source, and if you click on that one, you can see something like this. So this is called the backend page source of that particular website, or whatever website you opened and right clicked and viewed its page source. So that respective website, the total data, total source code is represented in this way. So this is nothing but an HTML page. So because the browser only understands HTML language, right? So anything which you will be seeing on a website through a browser, there will be a backend HTML source code. So that source code looks something like this. So and if you see that HTML source code, it's a hierarchical order with a lot of tags and tag informations inside that one. So we'll see that in details. So along with that, so that is HTML is one of the data. HTML language or HTML page, HTML script is one of the data which will be there in any standard website backend. So along with that one, there will be a few more components. I just highlighted 2-3 major ones. So one is like HTML,
Google, Skype,
and the next is like there can be some Java or Ajax links. So it is like let's say in a website you need to have something like playing media, playing a video or something. So most of the time, a standard way of achieving that one is like have a Java application backend. So we don't need to go into
web version. I don't think any
too much detail into that one. But Java applications or Ajax call are some of the things which will be there along with that HTML language what you see in the page source. So that is the second aspect, and the third one is like CSS. So CSS is like is a cascading style sheet. So that basically tells to the browser how that particular website should look like. So basically the styling aspect of it. So the color informations or the font italics, or I mean kind of whatever styling, from the styling perspective, what and all comes, all those things, actually, CSS has an option. So when you say a website or a website which you are opening, or in case of Google, whatever, when you type the google.com, so whatever comes on that first page, so I will just open that Google search page. So in this page, if I do a right click, there is something called view page source. So in this page source only, so this page source is nothing but a combination of JavaScript, Java, then mainly the total the language is written as HTML, but it combines JavaScript, CSS styling,
Then
everything.
from there
So
you can
that's how a standard website will be
yeah,
organized, and HTML is primarily the language used to make the browser understand what we need to do on
yeah.
and what we need to show on that particular website.
Once you buy, give to me.
Is that clear, or I need to explain a little more? Okay, I'll continue. So this is I just right clicked and did a page source of Google website. So this you can see so much data which we don't need to bother too much. Probably I will come back to that page itself which has better organized data. So here, so as I mentioned, this is the page source of a one of the website which I opened. I don't remember which one it was. So and here what we need to consider is like this total data, as I mentioned, this is an HTML uh, script, and HTML language is like a hierarchical order of multiple tags. So and what is a tag? So a tag is nothing but a word which comes with that angular basis. So in this case, I just highlighted here. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah. So I highlighted here HTML, then scripts. So HTML is the parent tag of the total body of the that particular website. So any website, if you open and right click and view the page source, this will be the header. This will be the parent tag for all the whatever website you open. And for this tag, there will be a closing tag also. So any tag, there will be an opening tag and closing tag. So in this case, I think in this page that view is not there. I will take another example. So see here that script. So script here, the script left side there is an angular brace. So this is nothing but a tag, and that tag ends here. See that also ends with again an angular basis with a slash backslash, right? So here in this HTML page, everything is organized using a tag. So and tag is nothing but the total web page. So if you open any particular website, any data which comes inside that web page, any small information, if you need to if you want that data to come on that web page, then that should be having a tag, and that tag only that information you can enclose. So in this case, the script is nothing but it's a standard way of putting JavaScript inside the HTML page, which we don't need to see now. Probably we'll in the later on classes we can explain a little more. So basically, this is a multiple tags which is organized according to the way the data need to be represented on the web page. So some of the frequently seeing information will be like divs. Divs is nothing but a division of a particular portion of a website where you need to represent something. So in this case, so if you see this portion, it is written as Selenium conference is coming. So this is like a message which was showing on that website. So if this information need to be shown on that website, then you need to basically tell on which portion of that website this particular information should be showing up. So that this division will handle that. So this is just basic information. We don't need to go in depth into how this data is organized, but we have to be knowing what is a tag and what is the attributes. So tag, is it clear? So any data which you wanted to represent on a web page has to be inside a tag, inside a particular tag. So there are some standard tags: divs, link, anchor tag, link, the title. So there are some user-defined tags also. Whatever it is, we have to at least should be able to recognize what is a tag inside a page source. So in this case, we have so many tags. HTML is a tag, head is a tag, which is nothing but a header to this website. Then script, it is using some JavaScript. That's why this script tag is showing up. Then there is a div tag. Then style. So this is something called CSS, which I explained just now. So So some portion of that website, they need some styling, some coloring or whatever. So for that purpose, they use this style tag. So like this, the data will be organized in a hierarchical order. And each of this, so let's say, now I will open Google website, and now this is a standard text box, right, where we can give our text string, our search string. So I do a right click and inspect. So now this will highlight a portion of the total HTML page source. The total HTML page source, a small portion is getting highlighted because see, are you getting my point? So here, this is the tag. Input is the tag which is responsible for this text box. Is it clear? So like this, if I do a right click of Google search, and again I am doing an input. See, another input tag. So this is the total page source. This input portion is responsible for this button, this search button. So this is how the data is organized inside an HTML page source. And so that is about the tag. And if you see tag, so now we see, now let us go to a detail into this particular tag. So in this tag, you can see so many data, value, area label, name, type, all this information. So all this information which comes before equal to, and there is a red ink highlight also there. So this is something with preceded with the angular braces is tag. Then that is inside that particular tag. So there is, see, all these strings, value string, area label string, name, type, everything comes before that equal to, right? So those things are attributes. These things, we call it as attributes for this input tag. So for this input tag, we have value attribute, then area label attribute, name attribute, then type, another attribute, and JS action. So there are some of these attributes are standard attributes, and some of them are custom attributes, which according to the programmer who developed this particular page decides that. Anyway, this total for this particular tag, we have 4 or 5 attributes. One attribute is value, another one area label. So we have to be clear about what is attribute here. And for each attribute, there is some information coming after equal to. That is called attribute value. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So, so one more time I will do a recap. So for any website, there will be an HTML backend page source, and that page source is the one decides what the data will be showing up on that particular website. So for example, in this case of Google website, for this search text box, if you need to know what is the HTML data responsible for this search box, if you do an inspect of that respective tag will get highlighted, and this tag, this input tag, is the one responsible for this particular search box inside the total Google page website. And for this tag, the class is one attribute, ID is another attribute, max length is again some other attribute, and each of this attribute will be having a respective value as well, which comes after that equal to. So these are some of the standard way of an HTML data is organized backend for any website. Clear?
Okay. I think Gopi is able to join.
Yeah, I'm joined actually. So there was a firewall issue, so we fixed. So I'm joined. Thank you. Sorry for the delay from my side.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
So you can turn off the video, so you can just use the audio call.
Okay, 1 second.
And you can be on mute. So whenever you talk, that time you can unmute.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Anil, you can put it.
Yeah. So Gopi, we are just seeing. So I was just mentioning like Selenium is a tool which is responsible for the. I mean, it's sole responsibility or the sole feature of that particular tool is like automating any web routine which you can render on a website. So for a standard web browser, so if you want to interact to a particular website, as a standard user, whatever operation you do on that website, all those operations, there is some methods inside the Selenium. Using that, you will be able to automate those routines.
Okay.
And if you see and how Selenium interact to that one is something like a backend HTML page source. So that is what I was explaining now. So any website, there will be a backend HTML page source, something like this. So and that so HTML is the data which browser understand, and Selenium also will understand only this HTML data. And according to this HTML data, whatever user mentions, Selenium can interact. And any portion of that website, there will be a responsible or any data which is showing on a website, there will be some tag responsible for that data. And that tags, you can see it on a backend page source, which is nothing but an HTML page source. And in an HTML page source, the data is organized in a tag hierarchy of tags. And here the tag is nothing but an Angular, a string which comes with the Angular braces. So in this particular page, the HTML string, head string, link, script, all these are tags inside this HTML page source. And this is a page source of Selenium standard website. So I just opened one website and right clicked, and I took the page source of it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's about a web application, and this web application we are going to use Selenium to interact to this web application.
Okay.
So let us come to a brief about Selenium, how it evolved and its history. So as I mentioned, Selenium, it's a responsibility of that tool is to automate any website or any web application which you can access through a web server, or not web server, web browser. So the Selenium, that project was started somewhere around, I think, 2005 or before that, and a guy called Jason Huggins, and he works for at that time he was working for ThoughtWorks, and he basically developed a small application totally in JavaScript, and that what his intention was to automate some of the testing which he does for a tool which ThoughtWorks developed. So that was basically a JavaScript based application, and that they later on thought of open sourcing that one, and they called that as Selenium Core. So Selenium Core was the first project which came out of the total Selenium project, and that Selenium Core has so many drawbacks. One of the primary drawbacks was like if you need to automate any particular website, your script also, your automation script also should be there on the same domain and the same system. So which is really impractical to have if you are testing your tool from a remote location, which is not really practical. So but that was the initial form of it, which they called it as Selenium Core. So then this project later on got evolved as Selenium RC. So Selenium RC is like Selenium remote control. So what it does is like they some of the shortcomings or some of the drawbacks of Selenium Core they addressed here. So they introduced something called Selenium Server. So Selenium Server is nothing but a mediator which runs on a remote machine, so that from a remote machine you can really interact to a web application. So earlier the Selenium Core, that was not possible. You need to really run your application on the same system where your web application also hosted. So that shortcomings they overcome using the Selenium RC project, which was there for some time. At least I think at least 5 years back, they moved that. I mean, they moved ahead and they created something new called Selenium WebDriver. So Selenium WebDriver is the one which we are going to use hereafter. But see, it is an evolved version of Selenium RC, and Google's there was an open source project that also merged together with the Selenium project. That's how the Selenium WebDriver inception happened. So the Selenium WebDriver is now the popular tool which used by overall, I mean total Selenium automation itself. If you see, WebDriver is the one which is extensively used. But there are some other tools also along with the Selenium WebDriver. One is Selenium IDE, then Selenium Grid. So Selenium IDE we won't be covering anything in this course because Selenium IDE is basically a record and play tool. So Selenium IDE also backend uses the same Selenium WebDriver only, but the backend it has as a backend. And Selenium IDE what it does is like any standard user interactions, you can record it basically. So that is a plugin to Firefox. So if you install that plugin and if you interact with any website, you can record basically that particular interactions, and later on you can play back that recording session so that the same routine will get repeated. So that was Selenium IDE, which was one of the popular tool inside the overall Selenium project. But that one of the main drawback is like we cannot really automate big routines using this IDE. Basically, if your website having some delays, or in whatever you interacting, your net connection having some delay, obviously the data rendering will be slow. So those kind of delays and rendering slowness and all, you cannot really handle using Selenium IDE. So that is basically the only intention is to small routines you can automate. That's the only intention behind IDE, but which is an ambitious project of Selenium overall forum, but they are trying to extend that. But the current state of it is like you cannot really scale up much according to your applications. So that's about IDE. Again, we are coming back to Selenium WebDriver.
Sorry, Dilip, one quick question.
Yeah, sure.
So you said IDE, it is only used in development side, right? So when they do development, script development time, they will be using it IDE, right?
Not really like that. So IDE, what it is like is a record and playback tool. So any standard interaction which you do on a website, you can record it basically, and you can store it in a particular language or whatever language of your interest. You can store that recording into a particular language, and you can play back.
Yeah, can I say like so when we use some of the websites, so login, user ID, password, those things and all we can record, right?
We can record all those. Yeah, we can record all those. But main drawback there is like, say, let's say that particular login site today it rendered fastly. The next day when you do it, either your network latency or your network is slow or whatever. If the data coming on that website is slow, means that slowness you cannot handle in IDE, because there is IDE, they call it as Selenis. There is some command which they use backend. So there are some limitation to handle those kind of delays. So we cannot use really as our automation tool. So we don't basically use IDE as an automation tool, but that is one of the popular one, because without knowing anything, without having any prior knowledge of Selenium or anything, you can simply install that plugin and record it and play it back anytime you want.
Okay. So you said any language it can use, right? How would be, if I want to learn, how would I know that I can use the Java or those things? So will it ask when we are recording that which language we want to use?
No, when you record it, it won't ask. But I think when you record it, that interactions is saved in standard HTML. Then that tool has an option to select whatever language you want. So I think it has, what I remember, I did it long back, because Selenium, which IDE really don't help in our automations really. So, but
Okay.
it has an option to store to Python, Java, JavaScript, all those options are there.
Okay.
And even you can see that source code also. You can save it to any particular file and you can see that source code also. Selenium IDE does all those things.
Okay. So since you said Java, JavaScript, what is the main difference between Java and JavaScript? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Gobi, wait 1 minute. Maybe Anil disconnected. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, okay.
Hello? Okay. Anil will back in 2 minutes. He's.
Hello?
Yeah, Anil.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, my net connection lost. Okay, I'm connecting from mobile actually. Okay. So let me share my screen again. So is it visible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, Anil, I had a question. Like, since you
Yeah, sure.
said, Java, JavaScript, right? What is this difference between Java and JavaScript?
Only the name is the similarity. So actually, both the language and total language syntax, language philosophy, everything is different. Only the Java name, I think, I don't know how that name came. But the Java is basically an object oriented, heavily object oriented, and a complex language, I can say, compared to JavaScript. And the JavaScript, one of the application of JavaScript is like a website designs, all those. So that's why JavaScript came into picture in case of Selenium and all. And JavaScript, all the programming is not a sequential way of, let's say, if you are familiar with the C programming and all, when you program something, it is a sequential order. Like if you write a statement, the first statement will execute first, then only it will go to the next statement.
Okay.
Right. So Java, all those procedural language is like that, but JavaScript is, they will call it as asynchronous, where there are some asynchronous concept there, so that each line of code which you write it will basically get executed parallelly.
Okay.
So those are some basic aspect, but it is entirely different. Only the name which is you feel some resemblance, and you might feel like both the languages there are some similarity, but there is nothing as such. And JavaScript is not even an object oriented. I mean, it's a loosely object oriented, but not to its full sense.
Okay, okay. So better is Java, right?
Yeah, better is Java in the sense this is one of the popularly used language for Selenium automation. The second is Python. Even JavaScript also, because JavaScript, why it is used to, because there are some, as I mentioned earlier, any HTML page source, you can see JavaScripts. So if you see here, see this is calling some jQuery. This is something like backend. They are doing some query, and this is some script, a standalone script which will get called backend of this website. So this kind of things. I mean, any website design, JavaScript is one language extensively used. So the same language also you can use it for automating as well. That's why JavaScript also there. But JavaScript is the people basically know about a website design or a web design. I mean, those are the people which basically uses or learns this JavaScript. Otherwise, Python, or in case of automation, basically Python or not even Java, Python or Ruby will be the extensively used one. But if you see the forums and help documents, Java is one of the language which is extensively used and extensively help are available.
Okay.
And Python also almost there. I mean, it is catching up nowadays. You can see almost all the examples in Python also.
So Python is also object-oriented programming language.
Python also is like a loosely object-oriented. They use an object concept, and object and class concept, and not to the extent of what is there in Java. I mean, object-oriented, all the theoretical aspects. I mean, Python is not covering, but the basic things are you can do it in Python also.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Because Python application is more on a scripting side. Because Java you can use more a mission critical or a more efficient coding, which Python does not guarantee. So Python is more of a scripting language. But Python is not at all behind, because there is nowadays a lot of application which is getting developed using Python. For example, Google. I mean, YouTube. The total backend code is developed in Python. So there are Python's presence are there in some areas, but still Java you cannot compare with Java and Python. Java is by itself is a big language, and there are a lot of technologies involved in that.
Yes. And also universally, Java is leading, right? Any development.
There are some, recently I read some surveys like 80% of the application which you see or day to day you use are developed using Java. So that's the penetration.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the information.
So we were discussing about IDE, but IDE is like a record and play tool, which we won't be covering much hereafter. So our interest is like Selenium WebDriver. So WebDriver is the one which we are going to use, and that is the tool which is offered by Selenium also to programmatically interact to any website. And if you see WebDriver, it has a support for almost all the browser which is available out there. So I just named a few of it, like Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer or Edge, whatever. So all those browsers it supports, and programming languages like Python, Ruby, C#, Perl, JavaScript, Java. So it basically support all these languages, and most of the, I mean, at least 90% of the browser out there, Selenium supports. Even it supports Android-based browsers and iOS-based one. So this was one of the reasons this tool become, and it is open source as well. So due to its multiple browser support and multiple language support, this tool become very popular. And we will be seeing in our course basically Firefox and Chrome, and there is no real big difference between any of these browsers. So I will explain that in some time later, how to enable each of these browsers. But as a starting point, we just understand, I mean, all this browser support is available inside a WebDriver. So, and if you see a standard interaction which we are going to have is something like this. So we as a programmer sit somewhere here and we are going to use Eclipse as an IDE. So IDE is nothing but a developer tool. So we need to install Eclipse in our TP, and Eclipse is the tool which we are going to use to develop this program, Java program. Okay. So, and Eclipse, what it does is like backend users going to use Selenium WebDriver library. This is basically we are going to import that as a library, and that library job is to interact to any standard web browser. And that interaction can be through any of these browsers, and each of these browser backend uses its respective drivers. So there is something called drivers which acts in between Selenium driver and a web browser. So if you send, let's say you use your Selenium WebDriver and you tell WebDriver to do some operation. So what the communication happens in a way like from the WebDriver, the command goes to this respective driver of that of the browser. Then that from there the command goes to the website. So in case of Firefox, it is called Gecko driver, and in case of Chrome driver, and Safari driver, and Internet Explorer, there is a Microsoft Edge driver which is for the Windows 10, I think. So basically this is a mediator between your website and the WebDriver. So WebDriver is nothing but the library which we are going to use from the Selenium, and this WebDriver basically interacts with any of this driver according to your browser of interest, and this driver only interacts to the website. So this is nothing but a mediator to the browser. And we what basically we need to do is that all these are exes you need to download from the site, and you need to keep it in your TP. That's it. I mean, Selenium WebDriver will identify that driver and it will interact to the browser. Any confusion here? Okay, so so that is how a standard interaction happens. So let me take you through a flowchart. So how we can automate any one of the routine inside a website. So for that, what we are going to use is like Chrome browser. So why we are going to use Chrome browser? Because Chrome browser have a built-in tool called a developer tool, and that tool we will be using for one of our element location technique. So element location technique, we are going to use that tool. So that is the reason we will be using Chrome browser for our development purpose. Clear? So, and if you see the flowchart, if you need to automate any particular website, first you need to, so let's say I'm going to automate a Google search. So I'm going to search something inside a Google website. So for that one, first we need to open that Google URL inside a Chrome browser. So that's how, because we are going to use Chrome as our developer tool. And Chrome has something backend called a developer tool that we are going to use. And the next step is like identify the area which you need to operate upon. So in case of Google search, so in this case, first thing you need to do is like you need to populate some search keyword here, right? So that's how a Google search operation happens, right? So let's say so this is how, so this search keyword we need to basically let me go back. So that search keyword basically we need to put inside this search box. So for doing that one, first we need to identify a web element respective to this search box. So, and what was that web element which I already explained? So if you do a right click and inspect, there will be some tag responsible for that one that will get highlighted. So, and this input tag and this total data inside that input tag, in the Selenium term, we will call it as web element, and this particular portion is the web element responsible for this search text box. Clear? So like this, each of the portion of this particular website, there will be a respective web element. So our first job is like identify that web element, because as I mentioned earlier, Selenium can understand only this HTML page. So to be precisely, the web element inside that HTML page. So you need to basically tell to the Selenium which is your web element. So in our case, we are going to do a Google search. So first we need to identify a web element respective to this search box, right? So for doing that one, I'm doing an inspect, and here a tool is opening, and this tool is called a developer tool. I already mentioned. So there is a built-in tool for Chrome. So this is the developer tool. Basically, this tool gives you a lot more data. This is not only for Selenium automation. This was basically given by the Chrome developers to debug the Chrome browser basically. But we are going to use for our automation for this purpose actually, to identify the web element.
Okay.
Clear? So,
Anil, one quick question.
Sure.
So is it identifying, what is this identify locator name called? Locator name, like is it as expat or is it like the...
Yeah. So I will come to that. So overall, this step is called element location. So there are so many techniques. There are 8 techniques available, or 8 options provided by the Selenium folks, and out of that, XPath, CSS. I mean, I will come to that one. So this is our second step. We are going to identify the web element, and that identification process we will call it as element location or element location techniques. So this is the one which we are going to cover now. And once that element is located, that element we can give to the Selenium WebDriver. So WebDriver is the tool, as I mentioned, we are going to use, and WebDriver will understand only the web element. So after finding the web element, we will give that information to the WebDriver. In case of Firefox, that WebDriver is called Firefox WebDriver, and we will give that information. Once Firefox or any respective browser WebDriver get that information, you can basically what Selenium WebDriver does is like it will go to that respective web element area of that website. Once Selenium WebDriver get the control of that area, then you can do whatever operation you want. So in case of text box, you need to give some string or text information to that text box, right? So in case of a button, you need to do a click operation. So once Selenium WebDriver able to identify the web element which you are providing, then you will be able to do any standard interaction which that website offers. So once you does that, you can quit that application. So this is how a standard workflow goes. The first you need to open your web application under test inside Chrome browser, then identify your web element, give that web element to the WebDriver, and once the WebDriver, you given that information to WebDriver will go to that respective location. Once WebDriver go to respective location, or in other sense, WebDriver identifies that web element, you can do whatever interaction that web element offers. So in case of button, you can do a click operation. In case of text box, you can send some text information to that text box or things like that. So this is how a standard interaction. So now the second step, so this is one of the primary aspect or one of the fundamental aspect of that overall Selenium automation, because once you learn this one, this is irrespective of any language. So once you learn this one, you can use it for your automation, irrespective of whatever language you choose. In our case, we are going to use Java. Okay, let us see element location techniques. So there are, as I mentioned, there are 8 techniques which is available out there, which are provided by Selenium folks. So those are one is like by name, the next one is by class name, then ID, then link text, then partial link text. Another way is like tag name. Then the last 2 is like CSS and XPath. So this was the one I think Gobi was asking, XPath. So this is one technique out there to identify the web element out of these 8 techniques. Clear? Yep. Okay. So now today we will see some basics of CSS as well, and the first 6 element location techniques is pretty much straightforward. So I will just explain that one. That will make more sense if I explain with a program, but I will just touch base that so that we can easily go to the CSS. So here I mentioned there are first 6 are like pretty much straightforward. One is like name, class name. So what is name? Name is nothing but an attribute inside a web element. Earlier, you remember what I explained. So for a tag, there will be so many attributes, and a respective attributes value also will be there, right? So I was like mentioning here. So let us take an example of this. Which one I will take? Okay, this link. So here the link is a tag, right? So inside this tag, rel is an attribute, rel is an attribute, type is an attribute, title is an attribute, then href, this is again a link, that is an attribute. So there are 4 attributes inside this link tag, and here this link tag ends, slash something with the slash and angular braces. So here this total tag ends. So this link tag has basically 4 attributes and something which comes after the equal to in double quotes is like attribute value. So we have an element location technique. So first 6 element location techniques is according to the attribute name. If you have some attribute with its name as name or class or ID, then you can use these techniques. So I will go to a Google website. So I'm going to explain first 6 techniques. So which I already mentioned, which is pretty much straightforward. So in this example, so I am going to see an element location technique for this search box. So I did a right click, inspect, the respective web element got highlighted. So here the tag is input tag, and here if you see, there is an attribute called class. So since the class is there, you can use element location technique as by class name. Clear? So in this case, what is the class name? Class name is nothing but the attribute value of this attribute, which is nothing but GSFI. So all this are attribute values. So in the next attribute is ID attribute, and respective value is this one, whichever is highlighted here. So in this case, we can use ID also. So here is ID is another. See, you see here, ID is another element location technique. So you can use ID also here, because in this particular web element, you have ID also as attribute. Or in fact, in this case, a name also there. So name is another way here, by name. So you can use this name also to identify. So in this example, we have all these options available. Name you can use, or ID you can use, or class. Any one of it you can use. but it is not necessary like all your web element going to have this information. There will be some example where you won't be having any of these 6 informations like name, class, ID, link, partial link test, or tag name. Any of this data you won't be finding. Then you can rely on XPath or CSS. Is it clear? So we have seen name, class, and ID here. The next is link text. So link text example we cannot show here. Probably I will show, yeah, this might have. So I am going to click this, or Gmail link will be having. So this Gmail link, how you going to identify? First you need to do inspect. So inspect is an option. Once you open your website or whatever site you're going to automate, open that in Chrome. Then the respective data which you wanted to operate upon, you click on that and right click on that one, inspect, so that the respective web element responsible for that portion of the website is highlighted here. So in this case, this Gmail, this highlighted portion is responsible for this Gmail information. So here if you see, this is, you have href here. So if you have href and A is the tag. A is, they will call it as Angular tag, which is a standard tag available, is out there inside HTML. So Angular tag, if you're finding Angular tag, that means it is a link. That web element represent a link. Even you can see here, see there, if there is an href attribute there in your web element, then that web element can be identified using a link. So here the link is https mail.gmail. So if you click on this link, what really happened backend is like, it is, you are basically clicking this link. So you can use, in this particular example, you can use, let me come back, this link test also as an element location technique. So primarily our, what we are going to find here, we are going to help Selenium WebDriver to identify our web element. So to identify that one, there are all these 8 techniques available out there, and we are going to figure out which technique we need to use for that particular options or particular area of that website. So in this case, we are identifying, we need to basically, we are going to identify a technique to identify this Gmail link. So here if you see, we could make out that this having a link. So we can use option like link text. So we have 2 options there, either link text or partial link text. I mean a portion of the link text or the full link text you can use. So in this link, what is a link text? Link text is nothing but, see, you can see something called Gmail given here. This Gmail string is the link text, because why that is a text? If you see this web element, that is the only information which is not preceded with any attribute. So if you, for example, if you take this string, this is preceded with the class attribute, or this 23 string, that is preceded with data-PID attribute. But if you see this Gmail, this is nothing but a text to this total web element, because that is not preceded with any attribute. So you can, that's how you can make out what is a text inside a web element. So this Gmail is the text. So we will use this text as a link text, or you can use GMA, a portion of it, and use the technique partial link text. Is it clear? Any doubt there?
Guys, any doubt?
No. Okay. Okay, I'm glad you guys are, because this, if you see the program, it will make more sense. I will come to that one. Ironically, my TP, what happened is like, my laptop, yesterday I switched to Ubuntu, where I later on realized like screen sharing option is not there if you install a Skype inside Ubuntu. So now I am using a spare laptop where the things are pretty slow. So I could not install an Eclipse here. Eclipse is basically a heavy application. So I will try to show a standard example using Aaron's TP. Let's see how that works out.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will show one basic example of CSS also. Then we will go to a Hello World program of Selenium. Fine?
Yep.
Okay. So the first is textings. As I mentioned, this is pretty straightforward. Whatever you see on that particular web element, from there itself you can make out that. So in this case, as I mentioned, we can use link text or even class also, because you see class is there as an attribute. So class also you can use. So let's just for some moment, let's assume we did not get any of the first 6 options to identify the web element. Then the next option is CSS. Why I ordered in this way? Because this is the hierarchical order where Selenium Fox itself suggests. Because the first 6 techniques pretty much fast. So when you use this first 6 techniques, Selenium WebDriver can basically quickly identify the web element. So the last 2 techniques, it takes comparatively more time compared to other first 6 techniques. That's why I ordered this way. But if you really see this really does not make big difference, because all these interactions really happens in milliseconds. So even though I say CSS and XPath is having some latency, you really won't notice that in a human eye. You won't be able to notice that. But I just mentioned that one because if you are going to automate some of the mission critical or some time critical application testing you are going to automate, then probably you need to choose the first 6 options than the last 2. That's how the hierarchy out there. So we will see CSS. So when it comes to CSS and XPath, so there the element location can be achieved using an expression. So it need an expression to find the web element in case of CSS and XPath. So in case of the first 6 techniques, either by name or class name, you don't really need an expression. Why? Because in this case, by name, let's suppose I used by name technique, by class technique. So here, what is the class name? Class name is pretty much straightforward here. Class name is nothing but GB_P. So you give this class name to the web element and tell, I wanted to identify a web element whose class name is GB_P. It's really straightforward. It's going to identify a web element with that information. But in case of CSS, see, you don't see in this expression any attribute called CSS. Are you seeing anything like that?
No.
Yeah. So the first 6 techniques, we were doing that way. I mean, we are finding an attribute and we will see with that attribute whether any technique available. In this example, class name, there is a technique, so we can use that. But if let's for a moment, let's suppose we are going to use CSS. In that case, there is no CSS attribute here. So CSS is it does not work that way. CSS or XPath need an expression. So, and a standard template for that expression goes like this. Let me open that. So this is how a basic CSS expression will look like. So that expression should start with a tag name, then an open square braces, then your attribute name, then equal to, single quote, your attribute value, then enclose that with the closing square braces. So this is a basic or standard syntax or expression for a CSS selector. Clear? So now we are going to identify a CSS expression for this web element, which is nothing but a Gmail link of Gmail standard, Google standard search website. So we opened the respective. Let me go to that. So what we did is like we opened, right clicked, inspected, so that the respective portion where the Gmail showing up is responsible for that Gmail is highlighted here. So we call that, as I already told, we call that as a web element, and we are going to identify a CSS expression to identify this web element. So, and you see this developer tool, there is something called a console down there. So if you hit an escape button, that will show up. If you want to try it, you can try it on your TP as well. So there is something called console which shows up here. Now on this console, what we are going to do is like, we are going to identify an expression, CSS expression, and we are going to make sure whatever expression we identified is proper and unique. Okay. So for doing that one, developer tool has a function called $, parenthesis, open and close parenthesis. So this is a function provided by developer tool to exercise a CSS expression. Clear? So now what is a standard syntax of a CSS expression? So that is nothing but a tag name, open square braces, attribute, respective equal to respective attribute value. So now we will try the same over here. Here, can anybody say what is a tag name for this web element?
I cannot see it, but I think can you?
Oh, you cannot see it. Okay, let me.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I will highlight it
Yeah.
Let me open one second. I mean, I'm just zooming in. Okay, is
Yeah.
it clear now?
Yeah.
So what is the so they ask according to the expression, the first should be tag name, then any attribute inside the tag, then respective attribute value. Okay, here the tag is A, right? A is the tag for this web element. So I picked A, then opened a square braces according to that expression. Then I'm picking, you can pick any attribute here. There are 3-4 attributes here. One is class, then data -PID, href, data -VED. We will pick as of now we'll pick one of such attribute. So let us take class. Okay. So I am taking class here. Then according to our expression syntax, there should be an equal to. Then in single quotes, what is the respective attribute value of that class?
G_P.
Yeah, I'm copying that one. I'm pasting that here. Then we need to enclose that in a square braces, right? So expression. I mean, all the respective attribute and respective value, we need to enclose in a square braces. So this is a standard syntax. So I did this, I'm giving an enter. So let's see, you see you got a result here. So you don't need to bother whatever result you got, because what is our intention is like, we have to make sure the expression which we identified is proper. If you get this result, means you got a proper expression. So let's suppose I'm going to deliberately making an error over here. So let's say I missed the square braces. I'm giving an enter. Is it coming? Okay, let's see. I think that way also it works. Okay, see. When I give the expression is this way, it is giving a DOM exception. So DOM is like a DOM. I'm just as a term I'm explaining you. DOM is like document object model. So basically another name for this HTML page source. So basically a typical website developer call this total page source as DOM. So we got a DOM exception here because our expression we used as CSS is not proper or not correct. It's an invalid expression. That's why it is giving an expression like select a valid CSS selector. The expression is wrong. So we basically will get an exception like this. And if you use proper expression, you will get a result something like this. You can even click on this one and expand this one. And if you do a right click here, there will be an option reveal in web element page. So that, see, again it highlighted on the top. That means you can, that way you can make sure, okay, the one you identified is the one you really wanted. So because you are right clicking here such a way that you can make sure the one you used, the expression you used is identified the proper web element only. But in this case, if you notice, we got two output, right?
Yes.
So the number is 2 here. That means for this expression, there are two web elements. So that in turn means the whatever expression we used is not unique. Because if I use this one and if I tell to Selenium WebDriver will get confused. I mean, which web element I need to use? There are two out there and it won't work. So this is another reason why we use this developer tool in case of CSS or XPath. So we can make sure the uniqueness of your expression and you can make sure your expression, what you identified is valid, is a valid expression, basically. Clear?
Yes.
So since this is not unique, we need to use some more data to make it unique. So we will, we will switch to an Hello World program. Then we will come back because in that way, if I proceed, I may need to cover all this. There are few more or some advanced topics inside the CSS itself, which you can utilize for identifying. I mean, make this unique. I mean, since this is a basic expression and you are not able to identify a unique web element using this expression. So you need to further use some more data to make this unique such a way that you can uniquely identify this web element. So we will cover that if time provides, but we will first see whatever we learned so far. With that one, we'll try to do a Google search. Fine?
Mm-hmm.
Any doubt here? Yep.
Yes.
Sure.
So my question is like, as you mentioned that there are around 6 to 7 way of locating the elements, right? Like by name.
Precisely 8. Yeah. These are the ones.
Yeah, precisely 8. Okay, sorry. So by name, class name, ID, and last two are by CSS and XPath. So the question is, out of this element locator, when do you think like we should go to locate the element using CSS or XPath?
Yeah. So one of the suggestions from Selenium folks is like, you can pick first try for any of the first 6 data. So if you have both, let's say your web element has a name and a class name, it's your decision. You can free to choose anyone out of it. As far as you have,
you said if the element has name and class, then I can go either by name or by class.
Exactly, you can either choose a name or class name.
Yes, but I cannot use ID. What else are there? Limit text and all, link text. I cannot use that, right? Either I can go by name or by class name.
Yeah, because your web element only have attribute of name and class.
Yes.
So you cannot use any other 4 techniques, next 4 techniques. But
Yes.
in any web element, you can use CSS and XPath.
Exactly. Okay. So in case if my element somehow is not getting identified using name or class name, then I will move to CSS and XPath.
Yeah, that should be one of the reason.
Okay.
And another reason is like, even though you use name, you may not when we checked here, we got 2 output. That means your expression is not unique. So when you use name, there will be some other web element also inside the total HTML page source having the same name. So the name won't be unique, or your class name won't be unique. So in that situation also, you need to use CSS or XPath or any other technique.
Oh, I got you. So okay. You answered my question. So basically, in case if my name and class name is not unique, then I will use CSS so that I can do some sort of the way you have done the tagging and all, so that I can make that element as a unique, right?
Yes, right, exactly.
By using class name, some name, and then entire properties, I will make it unique, and then I can identify my object, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And the first 6 should be your primary choice, because these are fast suggested by Selenium folks.
Yeah, if you can allocate using those first 6, go for that. If you cannot, then go for CSS and XPath.
Yeah, and I let me share my personal experience. When we used our automation, we used only XPath because our automation the application under test was not really fast enough. So we really never bothered about the latency aspect of it. So we used only XPath so that it was easy for us to educate the team and to keep a uniformity. It's like you need to only learn one technique and use it everywhere throughout the project.
Okay. So just a second. Sorry to interrupt. So what, I didn't get that part. You said that your application was not fast enough. How does that matter?
It not really matter there, but see, as I mentioned, Selenium folks itself themselves telling, right, the first 6 techniques are fast, so you can identify the web element pretty fast compared to other ones. So if you create a big automation program and you are really concerned about the time it takes to automate that, time it takes to exercise those test cases, then your natural choice should be the first 6 techniques.
Okay.
So since we didn't have any such limitations in our project, we kind of zeroed in on one technique so that it was easy for us to educate the team, and there are some situations which XPath only can achieve. Some of the complex scenarios where XPath is the solution. XPath is the only technique which I so far come across which I could figure out, and I could figure out or I create an expression without fail. Even CSS has some limitation.
Okay, so basically you are saying to maintain the to keep entire script uniform, you guys everywhere used XPath, so that that kind of framework you followed, right?
Yeah, that kind of design philosophy we followed. But, yeah. So it depends on you. Your project, and it's entirely your call. So there are some cases which I've seen, like there is some project called Protractor, which is a Google UI automation, which backend uses Selenium only. So some forums they suggested refrain from XPath. So they given some other technique and some other custom techniques which they can basically handle the drawback of other techniques.
So,
yeah. So those kind of things are, recently I've seen, but XPath, my personal experience, that can be used anywhere, everywhere. So there are very less areas which you don't find.
Where
you might
XPath
find
is not working.
Yeah, XPath. It's not like not working. It's like that latency matters. XPath takes some time to really identify a web element. So if you give an XPath expression to a Selenium web driver compared to other techniques, let's say by name takes 1 millisecond, XPath going to take 30 milliseconds. It's like a 30 times more. Even though in a millisecond terms, it takes more time to identify that web element.
So does it mean it will make your script slow as compared to other techniques if we use other techniques?
Precisely, that's what I am telling. So that takes. So if you going to automate a bigger routine, let's say you have some 400 or 500 test cases itself. Your test suite itself having so many test scenarios, and you're going to automate everything. So there it matters. I mean, your XPath going to take each millisecond counts there, right? So that is there. That again depends on whether you can afford that much time.
Time or not. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep, sure. So yeah, we are planning to go to C and Hello World program. So Arun, you're there?
Yeah, Anil.
Yeah. Can you?
Let me try to share it.
Yeah, sure. Sorry for today because my TP, as I mentioned, got some issue. I could not do the setup on my system itself.
No problem.
Yeah.
So, in any other questions, Gobi or anybody?
TP test project, you say?
No. TP, my laptop. ThinkPad. I mean, IBM, use that term, so I'm quite used to that.
Okay. Sorry, no problem.
So, are you able to see my screen?
Okay, I think it's visible, Aaron.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this is just a 4 or 5 line Hello World program. So just to showcase how the aspects or the things what we discussed today, which is really getting used inside a program. So this is just to for you guys to understand that we will be discussing this in details in coming classes. So this is just to showcase this one so that you can make more sense what we discussed so far. So the first line is like a set property. So I mentioned earlier, each browser is going to have a respective driver. So in this program, Iron used Chrome driver. So there is a Chrome driver exe you need to download. All this exe you will get from Selenium headquarters site itself. You need to download and keep it in your system, and you need to set this environmental variable. So once this environmental variable WebDriver.chrome.driver, so that is the environmental variable. So that when you set that environmental variable, only Selenium WebDriver knows, okay, Chrome drivers executable is there in that particular location. This is basically setting the path where our exe is located inside the system where we are going to run this program. Clear? So first we need to set this environmental variable. This is one-time setting. Once you set this one, you don't need to do anything further. So according to this one, this program we can use only Chrome because we set exe of Chrome driver only. So Chrome driver is the exe of Chrome browser. So respectively for Firefox, there is something called a Geeko driver. We need to download that. We need to set that path. Then only we can open Firefox driver. Clear? So I'm going to the next line, line number 14. So this is what this line does is like, this is a class, Chrome driver class, and we are creating an object of that class. So all the class, object and Java basic concept Venkat is going to cover. So this just you keep in mind. I mean, you can if you know, you can better relate. Otherwise, I will just explain that one. So try to understand as much as possible. And anyway, we will be covering when we cover the Java basic. All these things will get more clear for you guys. So the 14th line that tells like we are creating an object of Selenium WebDriver. So in case of Chrome driver. In case of Firefox driver.
or in case of Internet Explorer driver. So backend, all this driver is nothing but a web driver. When each browser, in this program we are opening Chrome browser, so we use the Chrome driver. So the moment this line executes, what happens is like it will open a Chrome driver instance. So prerequisite is like your system should be having a Chrome installation, Chrome browser installation, and you need to download this Chrome driver exe. The 13th line you can see Chrome driver, right? User Antonio documents Selenium Chrome driver, right? So that Chrome driver is nothing but an exe. You are downloading it. You download it, and in this case, Aaron kept that inside the documents folder. So you set that environment variable, and the next 14th line, when you execute, it will open the Chrome browser. And the next line, the 15th line, is like driver dot. So once a Chrome is opened, driver object dot get. Get is an API inside the WebDriver, Selenium WebDriver. There is an API. API is nothing but method. A method inside Selenium WebDriver, which enables us to browse to a particular website. So in this case, we are giving a URL of Google search. Google website. So https google.co.in. So this is the site address. Whatever site you are going to automate, that site address you need to give here, and driver.get. When you execute this line, whatever Chrome browser opened by the last step, there this URL will get pasted and it will get browsed. Okay. So that's the 15th line. So and coming to the line 18, time being you ignore that one. This is a timeout setting. You just ignore as of now. And coming to the 19th line, so there again I used the same driver object. Driver object dot find element. So find element is a method inside the Selenium WebDriver, which we use to find the web element. So we already discussed web element, what is web element, and how to identify that web element, right? So once we identify a web element technique, we will call this method driver.findElement. And see, in this example, I used CSS. So for using CSS, I used by.xpath. In this example, I used XPath. So for using XPath, I used by.xpath and XPath expression. So in case of CSS, I would have used by.css. So, or in case of class name, there would have been by.class name. So, Aaron, can you try that one? Can you comment this line and...
Which one? 18th?
19th line. And copy that line one more time so that we'll try to do... Click also you can comment. Click also you can comment. 20th line. Yep. So, and one more time, copy paste.
Which line you want? This one?
19. Yeah. Okay. So now, can you remove that XPath alone so that we will replace that one with the link text? Full XPath portion, yeah. Now that XPath also, instead of XPath, try to use that link text. Remove that. Okay, now give link text. Control space, command space. Yeah, by partial link test you can check. Partial link test. There is one more. Yeah. Okay. Now, Arun, can you open that Google search? No. We'll just get the respective test from that Gmail icon, right? So can you open that? Go to Google. Okay, fine. So no, you don't need to go to Gmail. Yeah, here itself. So folks, what we are trying to do is like find the web element for the Gmail option. The top right, there is a Gmail link. Aaron, can you just hover there? Yeah. So there, right click, inspect. So it opens something like this. And what is the link text here? So anyway, this A, which is highlighted here, A is the tag. Then there is a class GB underscore, class value is GB underscore P. So there is a text. Gmail is the text. I explained right. What is a text inside a web element? Text is nothing but an information which is not preceded with any attribute. So this is a link here because how we identified it as a link, because it is having href tag, href tag, and href attribute, not tag, sorry, href attribute and tag A. So usually either tag A or tag link will be the basically the link based web element. So since this is a link based web element, we are going to use partial link test as our element location technique. So in this case, either link test or partial link test, or link test is in this case is like Gmail. So can you copy that Gmail and go back to the program and paste there in double quotes?
Yeah.
So because that, why we put double quote? Because that's a string. So yeah, can you run this program? So now what we did is like, we used partial link test as our element location technique, and we are going to find web element responsible for that Gmail link of Google search page.
So I will run this program. This setup, right? We need to set the Chrome driver path, and then we have a Selenium jar which we need to add to the build path. That later Venkat will cover all those things. So I'll just
probably the next class we'll start with the setup, and then we'll move with the element location techniques. So today, time being, in the interest of time, we are not explaining that portion. We'll just showcase how an interaction happens and how we use a WebDriver.
So we'll always will run as Java application because it's a Java file, right? So right click and run as Java application. That's way it will work. And you can see there is a browser opened.
So see, when this browser got launched, and that URL is pasted here, https www.google.co.in. Okay, that's it. We are not doing anything inside this program. We just launched this one, google.co.in page, and we just searched the Gmail link. We didn't do anything on that link. We just searched it. So can you go back? So that happened. So now that happened in the sense that we didn't get any error. Can you give some wrong information there? Instead of Gmail, give something like add some more extra character. Yep. Can you run it again?
Yeah. So this right, this button also will run the program. So you can see browser open.
So again, browser is launched. Went to the respective state. And see, you got an error here.
Hello, Anil. Anil? So we can see right here the link text error we got. It's a no such element exception we got here.
So, so
Anil, your voice is breaking. I think.
if you see the console, see if it is visible, you can see one exception this program thrown, and that exception is called no such element exception. That means the element location technique which we used is not proper. So why it was not proper? Because we used the link test technique and we given a wrong text. So Selenium WebDriver not able to identify that web element. So when we run initially, when we use the proper text, the program executed properly without giving any error. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we will show one more example of clicking that Gmail. Since that is a link, and that in that Gmail we can do a click operation. We'll do that one as well. Arun, can you do a click on that?
Yeah.
Gmail.click. You probably in the next line you do, so that people won't get confused. So we identified the web element, and that web element name we given as Gmail. So once we get the web element, as I mentioned earlier, Selenium gives all the standard methods which you basically how a user interacts to a website. When you, for a standard user, a website interaction means either a click operation or either a drag and drop or search box populating some text information. So for doing all those things, you need a method. So Selenium WebDriver provides that method inside a web element. So the line number 22, first we identified a web element respective for that Gmail link. Once we identified the web element, that web element dot, we are doing what operation we basically need to do? A click, right? So you can see one method there, click. Can you select that click?
Yeah.
Yep. So can you run it again?
1 second. Let me quit this.
Yeah. So what we are doing is like we identified the Gmail web element responsible for the Gmail link. Then we are going to do a click on that link programmatically using Selenium WebDriver. Yeah, I don't know as well.
Yeah, I did not click.
So in this, if you see, there is no click operation. We need to give some delay inside the program, because what happened is like it launched the Gmail. Is it clicked?
Yeah, I clicked.
You clicked, okay. Fine.
No.
Close it one more time.
I did not click. It clicked. I don't know. It took some time.
Oh, is it okay? Okay, then fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
run it once again. Let's close this.
Yeah. Anyway, sometimes you won't be doing. That click really won't be happening. The primary reason will be a delay. You according to this program, the 15th line is launching the Gmail, and immediately we are trying to click. So that might take some time. So here it happened. Yeah. So there are some mechanisms to have those delays, everything. We will discuss all those things in detail. Since this is just my intention is just to showcase how this things, whatever we discussed, will really get applied into a WebDriver. That's it. We will discuss all these aspects into a little more detail on coming classes. But yeah, folks, I mean, this is the overall, I mean, interactions, or this is how a Selenium WebDriver interact with a web browser. So, any doubt here?
So, is it? This is Anil, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So so can I ask some Java question if you don't mind, or is it something will be taken care by Venkatesh?
We will. You don't need to worry at all. We will be doing a detailed covering of all the aspects, at least which we are going to use for our automation. Java aspects, everything we will be covering. So you don't need to worry of any of this. We will take at least 2-3 classes for covering all those details. So what it is like we, since 11 location technique is independent of any language, so that's why I covered it today. I mean, I just started with. We'll cover it in next one more class. Then we'll go to Java. I mean, all the Java basic concept we will see. Then only we'll come back again to the automation.
Okay.
So
Anil, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So, meanwhile, till next class, when I get a time, I would like to practice this. So, do you have any instruction? How should I create a test project and install the IDE? Eclipse.
Install Eclipse. I don't. Do we have that? I think that site have a detailed instructions.
You have to simply go to Google, right? Or else we'll do one thing. We will send out a mail.
Send a mail. We'll send out a mail.
We have the details. So I will send a mail with those details.
See,
we have that. We have that, and anyway, the next class we will be. I mean, you guys can try with that one, and if you are facing something, next class we will start with that one, setting up. Because the next class onwards, anyway, I want everybody to have that setup ready, so that you can also try some hands-on.
Okay, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
So here, you can see again one more example. I used XPath again for G instead of link test. Still, that also will work. Like all the 7 techniques, right?
Yeah. So could you show me how you find the XPath for that one?
So,
he said, I think we can cover it on next class, Gobi, because the XPath by itself having so many options.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
See, Gobi, it will be like, you have to give $X, that is the syntax, and codes you need to find, here it is, Gmail is the text, right? So you have to give something like this. Here you have to give Gmail instead of.
Okay, no problem.
So
I can just, since you're asked, I can share that also. See, is my screen visible?
Yes.
No,
Okay, so
this is my screen, right? You shared your screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, a standard syntax or expression for CSS is tag name, then square braces, attribute, and attribute value, right? So, for XPath, a small difference is like before the tag name, this is how that expression looks like. This is XPath expression. What I explained earlier is like CSS expression. So, in case of XPath, you should start with the 2 \, then tag name, then again open square braces, and before attribute name or attribute should be preceded with @ then equal to respective attribute value. So you can you see both expression now in the page? I mean on your screen. So if you see XPath, we don't have that / before tag name, but in case of XPath we have that. So there are some minute variations, but basically this is a basic syntax of CSS and XPath. So we'll discuss all those options available in CSS and XPath in details, because it's really helpful to learn this one. Actually, if you Google, there are a lot of tools or plugins available for Chrome and Firefox to readily find these expressions. Like if you keep your cursor on your button or your area of interest inside the web page, that tool itself will suggest you the expression. which is really easy to identify. But the thing is, like, once you learn, this is not really tough expression. So but once you learn this one, you can really automate anything inside Selenium. But if you rely on any of such tools, later on you will struggle to identify some of the complex expressions.
Yes, exactly.
So I'll suggest better use this way itself. This is the raw way of, or raw technique of identifying it, and there is nothing beyond this one. All these techniques we'll be covering on next session.
Okay.
Anil?
Yeah, sure.
I have a question. I have a few questions. So the first thing is, will you guys be covering the TestNG framework and how to use it?
Yes, we will be absolutely covering the full concept of TestNG, because what is TestNG is like, it's a test automation framework. So really, TestNG provides you some handy options to create test cases.
Mm-hmm.
So and that is one of the default option when it comes to Java Selenium. So we will be covering that one.
Okay, perfect. And do you have any details on the agenda? I mean, like, what are the topics you'll be focusing on for the next few classes or something like that? Just to get an idea.
Dilip, we have that one, right? I mean, we created.
I have an Excel sheet with all the topics, so I will share that.
Okay, perfect.
And Saujanya, it is like, right, next class onwards we will again go back to the CSS and XPath expressions, and we will start with the basics of core Java. So we know, right, which are the areas we need to cover to learn the Selenium. Then in between we will start small programs like what we showed today, and we will again mold it to how to write a framework using TestNG, then how to use annotations, and how to read data from the XML file. Then we will show you how to add all the reporting mechanism, like something called ATU reporter, or TestNG way of reporting the test cases. All those things we will cover, but it is 25 to 30 hour session, right? So we will cover all those things in coming classes in detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So we will give you small assignments also sometimes.
So,
Hello?
will it be just on Sundays, or you also have
So we are doing 8 to 10. So is that convenient time for everyone, or do you have any other time?
I'm okay with 8. I just wanted to know so I can plan other things. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So you'll be sending us some details about the agenda for the next few classes and all.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
And we have a blog also, so we update all the basic concepts about Java and Selenium in that. So I will send you that link also.
Okay, perfect.
Sure.
So,
and also the link to the YouTube recording, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So after every session, we send the YouTube link and the programs covered in that class. Will be shared.
In the same video, right?
Correct. For every session, there will be a separate video, and we will send you the link after the class.
Okay. And we all will be talking, I guess.
Yeah, that we cannot. That is the reason we asked you to unmute the video so that it will not be visible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next class we are planning July 8th. So meanwhile, you can go through whatever documents we send you, and you can do the installation. And we will send you some sample programs also.
Okay.
So after installing Eclipse, you can just try out that.
Okay.
And, meanwhile, if you have any questions or doubt, you can just send it. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can just mail it to us.
One more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, just in case one of us is not available on any weekend, we will still get the YouTube video, right? So that we can.
Yeah, it will be available all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So.
Thank you, Anil.
Thank you very much,
Dilip.
Anil and Dilip.
Yeah, it's really good actually.
Yeah, it was very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.